Welcome to the Middle East in less than 5 minutes podcast. My name is Igal and I'm your host. Today's topic is DNA testing and Jewish ancestry in Israel. A common claim circulated online is that Israel bans DNA testing to prove Jewish ancestry, implying that the Israeli government is hiding something about Jewish genetic ties to Israel. But this claim is misleading and based on a misunderstanding of Israeli policies. Today, I'll break it down and explain why DNA testing is not banned in Israel, what genetic research actually says about Jewish ancestry, and why Israel does not use DNA tests to determine citizenship under the law of return. The idea that Israel has banned DNA testing to prove Jewish ancestry is false. Israel does regulate the use of DNA tests in legal cases, particularly for citizenship applications, but that does not mean the government denies Jewish genetic links to Israel. The restriction exists because Jewish identity is traditionally determined by religious, cultural, and historical factors, not solely by genetics. According to Halacha, Jewish law, Jewish status is inherited maternally or through conversion. DNA alone cannot determine who is Jewish because Jewish identity is more than genetics. It includes shared history, religious tradition, and communal continuity. However, Israeli courts have accepted DNA evidence in exceptional cases, such as for Soviet Jews whose historical records were lost due to persecution. Genetics confirm Jewish ancestry in connection to Israel. While Jewish identity is not based on DNA alone, modern genetics strongly supports the historical Jewish connection to Israel. A 2010 study published in Nature found that Ashkenazi, Sephardi, and Mizrahi Jews share a high degree of genetic overlap with each other and with populations from the Levant, modern Israel, Palestine, Lebanon, and Syria. The study found that the genetic sharing between Jewish populations was greater than the sharing between Jewish and non-Jewish populations. The study also found that the degree of sharing within populations was similar to what one might observe for fourth to fifth cousins. The study found that the genetic affinity among the Jewish population was not significantly different from one another at the genetic level. The study found that the paternal gene pools of Jewish communities from Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East descended from a common Middle Eastern ancestral population. A 2013 study in PLOS genetics confirms that Ashkenazi Jews derive roughly 50% of their ancestry from the Levant, with additional European admixture. A 2017 study in genome biology reaffirms this finding, showing clear genetic continuity between Jewish population today and the ancient inhabitants of Israel. Conclusion: Jews, whether Ashkenazi, Sephardi, or Mizrahi, are not an invented people. Their genetic roots trace back to the land of Israel, aligning with historical records. One argument made by critics is that if Jews have genetic ties to Israel, why doesn't Israel use DNA to determine Jewish identity for immigration? Here's why. Jewish identity is not racial. It includes converts and communities that have maintained Jewish practice for centuries, even if they have mixed ancestry. The law of return grants automatic citizenship to any Jew, but defines Jewishness by descent or conversion, not genetics. Ethiopian Jews, Indian Jews, and other Jewish communities may not always show the same genetic markers as Ashkenazi Jews, but they are part of the Jewish people. Using DNA as a requirement would exclude them, contradicting Jewish tradition. If Israel did use DNA testing, the same critics would likely accuse Israel of being a racial state, so the argument is disingenuous. The debate over Jewish ancestry often reveals a double standard used against Israel. On one hand, some claim that Jews are an invented people with no genetic connection to Israel. On the other hand, others argue that Jews are a racial group that excludes others, even though Judaism has always allowed conversion. These contradictory arguments are not about seeking truth. They are designed to delegitimize Jewish identity and Israel's existence. No other group is asked to prove its ancestral connection to its homeland through DNA testing, only the Jewish people. The claim that Israel bans DNA testing to hide the truth is a distortion of Israeli legal policies. Scientific studies confirm Jewish genetic ties to Israel. Jewish history and tradition affirm an unbroken connection to the land. Israel's refusal to define Jewish identity by DNA alone is not an attempt to obscure history. It is consistent with the Jewish tradition. Jewish identity is not just genetics. It is history, culture, religion, and national continuity, and that connection to Israel is undeniable. Thank you for listening to Middle East in Less Than 5 Minutes podcast. Follow for more historical insights and check out the social media for updates. Until next time, Shalom.